Since 1955, Alpine has been the iconic French brand synonymous with automotive passion, one of the rare brands with a unique sporting record, a strong history, highly recognizable design codes, and a commitment to racing in the two top competitions of motorsport. It embodies the essence of our passion for cars, beauty, style, performance, and driving pleasure, turning heads among the public and enthusiasts in France and abroad. During its first run, the small brand was a formidable competitor, participating in legendary circuits and becoming a source of national pride in France. But behind its prestige and its distinctly French charm lies a powerful contradiction. In its 70-year history, Alpine has never reached the same level of prominence as its competitors, and it has spent almost its entire life facing financial difficulties that have kept it in the shadows for years, as if it were under a curse. On one hand, we have a brand with an impressive heritage and everything it takes to succeed. A strong identity, talented designers, iconic models, and a very active fan club. But on the other hand, we have an extremely vulnerable company that has been trying to make a comeback for years and still can't find the formula to combine prestige and profitability. Alpine is set to release its first sport utility vehicle this year. A surprising format which almost seems like bad news for a brand that has always stood for lightness. But in reality, it would allow them to sell more cars and establish themselves in the market permanently. October 11, 2024. Alpine has unveiled the A390 beta concept representing the brand's future offerings. Is the brand finally ready to join the premium manufacturer's big league, or will this be another wasted effort? In this video, we'll explore the strengths and weaknesses of the legend to uncover the truth. Alpine, the French-loved brand that hasn't achieved a breakthrough yet. Driving through the Alps in my 4 chevaux with a 5-speed gearbox was the most fun I had. I wanted my customers to experience the thrill of driving the car I envisioned building. The name Alpine sounds good and is symbolic. Talking about the history of Alpine is above all talking about the story of a passionate man, Jean Redelet, in France in the 1950s just coming out of the war. Two noteworthy models launched during the era of highly rational automobile production were the Citroën 2 chevaux vapeur and the Renault 4 chevaux vapeur. This 4 chevaux vapeur will appeal to Jean, the youngest Renault dealer in France and a Norman car racing enthusiast. Inheriting his father's Dieppe garage, his passion and competitive drive lead him to sell more than just 4 CVs to grandmas. He decides to prove that this little car has real sporting potential. He wants to put a 4 chevaux vapeur on rally roads, like taking a stock Twingo one to compete in the Paris-Dakar. His first race, the Diaproant Rally, ended in victory. Motivated by this, he continued racing and won the Mille Miglia in his category in 1952. Other successes followed, the Alpine Rally and the Liège-Rome-Liège. On the winding Alpine roads, he begins pondering an idea no one had dared imagine. Why not create his own personal car brand based on this Renault? Light, fast, agile cars that would bear the names of the roads where he shined. Alpine was born when its founder reached out to the top French coach builders, but they mocked him from the start. Coach builders from the era of Talbot Delage or De La Haye found it unimaginable to build a sports car based on a Renault and somewhat looked down on Jean Redelet's request. Too bad for them. Our founder turned to Italy, determined to have his first prototype built. He will call on one of the most productive genius designers of the 20th century, Giovanni Michelotti. To give you a bit of context, Michelotti is the father of style. He designed over 50 cars from the 1940s to 1970s, including Ferraris like the 212 340 and 275 Maseratis, such as the A6 and 3500 Gran Turismo, the Lancia Aurelia, Alfa Romeo, 2000 BMW, 3200 and Triumph's 1960s lineup. For Alpine, he first designed the 106 with the bodywork made at Alemano in Turin. The first prototypes used aluminum, and even though he's already winning the races he enters, Jean Redelet used a cheaper, more workable material to make his cars more affordable. Polyester resin reinforced with fiberglass, which has the advantage of being affordable, strong, and above all, extremely lightweight. The introduction of this material in the late 1950s had a significant impact on the performance of Alpines, despite being a common material today. Back then, it simply didn't exist. After the A106, Michelotti designed a convertible version, partially kept by the team, which Jean Redelet managed to assemble in Dieppe to create a new model, the A108. Roger Prieur, Jean's cousin, is in charge of the bodywork for this small sedan. In 1958, Alpine debuted its first coupe in French blue at the Paris Motor Show. But on the way back from the exhibition, cousin Roger was in a serious car accident that left him bedridden for nearly a year. Jean Redelet frequently visits him during his recovery to discuss new projects. When Roger returns to his position, he begins working on the brand's new product, set to be unveiled in 1962, the Alpine A110, nicknamed the Berlinette. The A110, with its aerodynamic design, lightweight 625 kilo frame and rear engine, quickly becomes a winning machine. The car's almond-shaped headlights and agility on dirt and snow earn it the nickname of the French Porsche. Even 60 years after its first successes, the A110's track record is just impressive. Between 1963 and 1979, it takes part in the biggest rallies and sweeps almost everything in its path. Alps Cup, Tour de Course, Mont Blanc Rally, Spain or Portugal Rally, and Monte Carlo Rally. In 1971, the Berlinette won most events, becoming the world champion. In 1973, the International Rally Championship changed its regulations and became the World Championship prior to the Porsche 911 Lancia Fulvia or Ford Escort. Alpine was the first brand to win the World Rally Championship, securing 6 victories out of 13 races that year. In summary, the A110 is a triumphant car that evolved into a national emblem, but we won't linger on the details. Do you understand? Relay Factory faced difficulties despite rally successes and joining Gendarmerie's rapid response brigades. Demand is high, but Alpine faces challenges: long wait times, custom orders, handcrafted production, no inventory, and slower than desired growth. Jean Redelet sold the license to Willis Overland, the Jeep manufacturer, to earn money during that period. The Berlinette was exported to Spain, Bulgaria, Mexico, and Brazil. In 1971, the brand aimed to bolster its position in France by introducing the A350, a new model designed to replace the Berlinette. The highly anticipated new Alpine inadvertently signaled a challenging transition for the brand. Alpine rushed the release due to a tense financial situation. The construction of new factories had already put our small manufacturer in the red, and to top it all off, since we're in France, a factory strike had delayed Berlinette deliveries, forcing the brand to launch its new model at any cost. This time, it's a real sports car but spacious, with 4 seats and comfort that's clearly superior to that of its little sister. The angular design by Michel Belligan follows contemporary trends and contrasts sharply with the A110's curves. But that's not where the problem is. The problem lies with reliability. Due to tight deadlines, the initial A310 owners received cars with sloppy finishing. Issues with sealing, faulty suspension adjustments, and subpar overall build quality. Although many flaws were later fixed, the damage was done, and this A310 earned the nickname the Unloved One. In 1973, Renault became Alpine's majority shareholder due to difficulties. In 1978, 5 years later, Jean Redelet negotiated his departure with Renault, no longer feeling free as the sole decision maker. The brand with the diamond logo must not cut jobs at the Dieppe factory for 15 years. Thanks, John. 6 years later, Renault produced their first fully in-house Alpine, the Grand Tourism Alpine, succeeding the A310. The Grand Tourism Alpine boasts a modernized design, reworked proportions, and a longer, wider, more aerodynamic and upscale look. The most significant change for this first fully Renault Alpine is the optimized manufacturing process at the Dieppe factory, designed to produce a contemporary sports car. The problem is it will still have some issues with finishing. Once again, unworthy of its ambitions. And on top of that, Renault gets all mixed up and makes a hard-to-understand decision to sell it under the name Alpine Renault, with the diamond logo right in the middle of the grille. This Grand Tourism Alpine almost got launched in the United States, but in 1987, Renault exits the United States market shortly before starting production, marking another setback for its Alpine brand. In 1991, Renault persists in its mission to create a French equivalent of the Porsche 911 with a new model. The Alpine A610 will be a massive failure, with only around 800 cars made. The development of the car was marked by compromises due to Renault's limited budget and unwillingness to invest in the project. The teams had to make choices, like keeping the Grand Tourism Alpine as windows. This practical choice significantly restricted design evolution possibilities, making the A6-10 strikingly similar to the Grand Tourism Alpine. The most significant change is the addition of pop-up headlights derived from the GTAs intended for the American market. Although all the body parts are unique to the A610, the car's resemblance to the Gran Turismo Alpine is so apparent that it looks more like a facelift of the old Alpine than an entirely new model to the public. In the end, 800 units sold in 4 years, a total flop. That's how the story of Alpine ended in the 20th century. But as you know, that won't last. On May 25, 2012 at the Monaco Grand Prix, Renault unveiled the A100 1050 concept car, marking a new beginning. This prototype, paying tribute to the legendary A110 Berlinette's 50 years, showcases a design heavily influenced by Renault's previous work. It's evidently the Renault Desert concept car, with the addition of the Alpine brand's aesthetic codes, particularly those of the Berlinette. This design includes 2 extra front headlights and the wraparound rear window. Having the same design is intentional, as it's created by the same designer. The brilliant Yann Jarsalet, who designed the Clio 4 and many other successful Renaults, creates high-quality sketches. Honestly, the attitude is incredible. This is high art, this A11050. It will do 4 laps of the track that day, driven by someone well known to car enthusiasts, Carlos Tavares, who at the time was working at Renault. Later that year, Renault confirms Alpine's return with a new model in the coming years. Produced in collaboration with Caterham, a Formula One team at the time, Alpine and Caterham Automobile Company is formed with Renault and Caterham each owning 50%, but barely 2 years later, the partnership is broken off as if nothing had happened. Once again, that's promising. Despite everything, Carlos Ghosn, Renault's big boss at the time, confirms that a new Alpine will be unveiled in 2016. We're nearing a production version with two consecutive concepts, the Alpine Celebration and the Alpine Vision. This recipe is the perfect way to energize fans of the Chevrolet brand. A concept, because it's realistic, that we can easily imagine from Honoru and that perfectly incorporates the codes of the Berlinette designed by a team of true enthusiasts. The vision, created by a team including Jan Jasala and current Alpine design director Anthony Villain, made a sensation upon release. When the production announcement is made, the first 1,955 units offered for sale are all ordered in less than 48 hours. The new generation A110 derived from the Alpine Vision has sold over 20,000 units to date. The watch's timeless, understated design seamlessly incorporates all the beloved elements, ensuring it remains ageless. The Berlinette features iconic round headlights, a sloping roof, and a distinctive 3D rear window that curves around the cabin. The sides feature the Redil swoosh, a line taken directly from the original A110 deliveries began in March 2017. The brand aims to position itself in the high-end segments and has made limited editions like the A110, as all respectable sports brands do. First edition, Color Edition, Legend, Gran Turismo Jean Redel, Tour de Corse without Remo Serrière, Fernando Alonso, Le Mans, and Stone. And the very last one, Promised, the are all time. The brand has used and abused this formula so much that it really needed to reinvent itself. 8 years after the A110D's presentation, the A290 has finally arrived. However, as seen in the thumbnail, that's where I believe it's a letdown. Yes, they had to reinvent themselves. Yes, the brand couldn't survive with just one model. Yes, they had to offer something else. But this A290, taken directly from the Renault 5, even if it can bring in sales volume, looks too much like it, and I think that's a shame. As enthusiasts, we would have favored the E3 concept with its 500 horsepower and carbon monocoque. And even though this A290 echoes the R5 Alpine and may appeal to those who knew it back in the day, I think it would have benefited from really standing out. So, obviously, there's an economic interest in making a cousin of the Renault 5. The Renault 5 and Alpine A290 were so similar in style that they jointly won the Car of the Year award. And it must be said that its name also works against it. They could have named it the A365 to convey that it's the everyday Alpine, meant for daily use. But the 290 isn't very evocative, and it's hard to imagine a model that would make history by becoming a new icon for the brand. On top of that, this new Alpine is the first one that's 100% electric, and for a brand for enthusiasts, that can raise some questions. Their goal is to reconcile passion and electrification, so let's wait and see the outcome and hope for their success. As part of Alpine's Dream Garage project extending until 2030, the A290 represents the brand's passion. This involves steadily developing a lineup of 7 electric models for various purposes. Today's Dream Garage features only the A290 despite recently seeing wild concepts like the Alpine Glow. While waiting for the new electric A110 Cabrio, a 4-seater coupe that will carry on the A310 spirit, the lineup will include 2 more SUVs totaling 7 models by 2030.
Speaking of SUVs, you've certainly seen it around and I talked about it in my last video.
The next model from the brand will be based on the A390 Beta concept and will be a sport utility vehicle. Even though Alpine calls it a Gran Turismo crossover, it will definitely be a high-riding coupe. An electric sport utility vehicle doesn't align with Alpine's historic quality of lightness. In my previous video, many of you criticized me for wanting this new model to finally be released. I want them to offer us something new, regardless of the format, not necessarily a sport utility vehicle. An 8-year-old A110 and a blue Renault 5 won't make people dream, achieve financial stability, and reclaim French dominance in the premium car market. Alpine makes unconventional choices at times, like a friend whose decisions you may not always agree with but still want to support. Because you're tired of seeing him waste his potential. Besides, the idea of the sport utility vehicle itself is solid from an economic standpoint. Lucas DeMeo, Renault Group's boss, has frequently mentioned that Alpine's brand target is Porsche. Although Dieppe has a long way to go before competing with them, the brand can at least draw inspiration from them. Before the Cayenne's arrival, Porsche was struggling, despite being hard to remember today. Purists cried scandal, calling it an insult to the Porsche spirit. And at the time, they were right, but the economic reality is that SUVs sell by the container load, and that allows them to fund the fun cars, the 911, or probably the next A110. Since the Paris Motor Show 2024, we've had a preview of this next sport utility vehicle with the concept car A390 Beta, the second one to join Alpine's famous Dream Garage. I can confirm that the Alpine team used the same strategy as with the unveiled A110. The Alpine Vision concept is nearly identical to the production version. The crossover's design is very similar to the final production model. The raised Berlinette proportions are striking, but the most notable aspect is the refreshed style. Alpine's roundness is replaced by the sharper angular Redilis Rouge line with stylized fog light effects, inspired by the stunning Alpine Glow concept. Wheel arches with pronounced volume and numerous design features. These will make the A390 look badass and give Alpine a new face for upcoming models. While I'm happy the brand is refreshing its image, I'm unsure if this style will stand the test of time. As well as the one on the A110, which still works today and is quite timeless. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the future of Alpine. Share your opinion in the comments. For me, it's a risk worth taking, but as I've always said, brands that don't try to evolve are doomed to disappear. And we all want Alpine to continue its journey. Let's hope it works, and that we can see the next descendant of the 110, followed by the 310, which I'm personally excited about. If you've stayed, it's because, like me, you love Alpine. That you're a true car enthusiast, and that you're part of this family that wants to keep the flame of the automobile alive, no matter what. Thank you for supporting and keeping the automobile flame alive. Until next time,